When I cut that out up top, I left this a little bit short. So right now I'm sitting about 3/16 or a quarter gap from here to the web of that channel. So I'm gonna go have a sandwich, but I can profile that out so it fits tight because it's not a perfect square on that channel flange. All right, we're at the top here. We're mocked up. The magnet's right on the line. This is sitting there. This is flat. So I need to measure to make sure the height is correct where it sits at that point. So we have 7.43 rise, and then we have 4 5/8 tread. So that's 3 plus. And the gypcrete is 2 3/4 plus or minus. We may have to shave a little bit there, and then 5/8 of tile and thin set. Ooh, that's good. Let's go to something definite there. .260 7/8. So what I did was I had just plumbed down at that end of the plumb bob and just measured off this expansion joint I have in the concrete. And so I'm a little off my line there, so it really doesn't have to move much. I'm just trying to get it squared up so that when I level and plumb everything with the stair treads, that I've removed all the possible things that could go wrong if something's crooked. So by squaring it with the world, as far as where the top sits and everything, so I can measure if I need to. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. I was kind of taking a chance there when I built, well, the shop was built before I poured the floor. I worked off of gravel in here for a while, but I did put heat tubes in most of the area, probably down to just about where the saw is, maybe a little past. I've never hooked it up to any heat. Never really needed to, I guess. I might someday if I put doors on the front. I don't know. But in any case, that's the first 2 holes I've drilled in this floor. I don't know if I hit tubes or not. I think the chances are low, but could happen. At least I'll know where they're at. All right, just grabbed a random riser block. I want to assemble the riser block onto the tread, the sub tread pieces, and then be able to set them on here and weld them. But when I set up the jig, I want to make sure that if I have to adjust this somewhere along the way, that I can. So I don't know. I want to make sure if I got to put a part of a gap under the tread, then that's what I'll do. But I'm just going to want to throw this on there. I don't know if you can see that. That's great. these levels are super twitchy too, so if it shows perfect, it probably nearly is, if the level's good. Check somewhere else. I don't know if you can see that. Oh yeah. Nothing to see here, that's good. As we add weld to one side only of this, there's a chance it can deflect, and it'll probably start to curl that, because as you weld across there, it'll shrink and it'll start putting a little hoop. So what I did when I laid this out was, there was a tiny little crown in this piece. They all start life as, I don't know, 40s or 50s sometimes, and this piece was a 24. So, you know, it did have a little crown in it from the manufacturing process. The weld is on the other side against the wall. So it may want to move a little bit, but we'll adjust as we go, and we may jump around to try to help keep it cool. We're definitely not going to do it all at once. I don't know if you can see that line on it, but I need to cut this off square with this so it fits up against that the stringer at the bottom. This is bottom tread. Here's my layout line right here. You can see my layout line. It's tight. That leaves the right amount under there, and the right amount back under there. Across that, I put a nice flat spot for a big toe weld there, and I can shape it down. I'm going to see out here because that covers it. I want to be able to weld on the table here and on the stringer without swapping it around every time. That's a new one. I was tired of this thing falling out of clamping it under the table, and there, turns out it fits into, I think that's called serendipity. a stick welder. I'm going to get my flashlight out. I'm using the stick welder in here because I can't get the shape I want in there with the MIG. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick weld that. And I'm also stick welding inside these because I can reach in there better with a rod than I can a MIG gun. At least for me, it's just how I'm doing it. I think what I'm going to do, I'm putting a nice tack down on these. I'm going to wait till this thing's down and on the sawhorses before I weld all these out. I think I'll get a better shot at keeping them neat. So it's just called for welding top and bottom, and I may or may not TIG fill the sides. But the way I'm doing it with the internal weld is I can get that attached to that, and there's no visible welds there. It's all inside because I can reach through the end there. It's looking really good. It'll make a big difference when you're standing there eye level looking at the thing, because you'll be able to walk under the whole set. So anyway. Oh, and that was the other thing. Somehow I managed I was keeping track of it, but I managed to get all my riser blocks cut. I don't know how I caught that. I managed to get all those cut with the weld on the back side, just like the stringer. I was shooting for that, and sometimes you get unlucky and mess a few up, but I got them all right. I had to double check there. I found an error on the 10th step, I think. It turns out it was just 1-inch itis when I was laying it out. I'm glad I didn't start there. Anyway, no big deal. Everything else checks out. It's just that one riser block mark is about 1 inch down, uphill of where it needs to be, but I got it. You know, funny thought, had I not been using this spacer here, I never would have caught it. I'm using this spacer to help block it up. I have a block on the back of that to fit over the weld, and then the riser just comes down to that and it holds it square. But it was this mark here and this mark here that were too high, so it checks out perfect when I just set the riser on that, so that's what I'll do. All right, I'm having a little issue getting my wire wheel into the uphill spot once these are welded on to clean out, because the wheel's wearing off. They make a grinder with like a long reach nose on them, but they're pretty expensive. I never quite had a big enough need to spend a bunch of money on it, so I have another little hack here that I do sometimes. I'll show you. But I need to get this into a tighter spot. One way to look at it is you can extend it out this way, or you can extend it out this way, and they make they're pretty cheap too. They make different size mandrels, like 2, 3. You can buy them in a set of up to 5 inches. But this thread here is 5/8 11, which is standard nuts and bolts type thread. So you can take a coupler. This is that. Let's call it. You just leave it on there. And there's 2 ways you can do this. I just keep old dead grinder bits here. But for this, I just have a little stub of all thread or thread rod, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna rub that on there because this is sharp. And then this just spins on there. And from there, I've got my safety glasses, but you can see then I can then reach in and set it right on that weld. And no problems. The other thing you can do, zoom that out a little bit, is so here's the base of one that would lock into like a grinder, so it's smooth bore. You could slip that over, and then it has a little collar there. I think that's a 7/8 standard 7/8 by 16th collar, which that would lock onto, and then you could use your normal spin-on nut. Or for this setup, sometimes the top nuts have that same grinder collet on the reverse, so these are threaded and you just flip them over. In any case, this is a threaded top nut, but you can flip it over and run the extender through it out like that, and then that will spin right down on the coupler. Imagine you could also couple a couple of couplers together, so that then sits on there, and then you can reach in to hard to reach spots with that, whether it's a wire brush or a grinder, but that allows you a little bit of latitude. All right, we got 12 of them on. I went ahead, I'm gonna make a little bit more scaffolding here, so I went ahead and assembled and welded out the last 6 that go on there, so I can just work once I'm up there without jumping up and down as much. I may end up doing it still, but anyway, those are ready. I gotta run out to a little welding job. And we'll take this up again in the morning. All right, we've got it, tension's off more or less from there, and then we've got this tight in. All we have to do is nudge that forward. That's chained to that. We got to nudge it forward. It went up there weighing about, I don't know, 500 pounds, and now it's 17 to 1800. So we're just gonna nudge it forward off the channel and then start lowering it down a little bit, and we'll see how the chain takes the weight. All right, so we're down. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit and we'll start prepping the weld, start welding that out. somehow managed to get that flipped over without A, hitting the ground, and B, catching it on camera, but it's over.